Yeah, right. Who needs countdowns like good evening, good evening, good evening. I hope and trust you're all well. I hope you can hear me and see me well. Here I am once again. Quite a few of you in already. Great to see you. I'm trying to move things around here so as I can actually see when people uh, flag me up and call my name so as I don't miss out stuff just the same. Listen, it's great to see you all in. I'm going to go right back up through the chat and say hello before we go any further. Graham Horner was in early doors. Good to see you, Graham. Graham and I were having a little chat earlier on, and we will get to that later. Greg's Whiskey Guide. Always good to see you here, Greg. I hope you're well, my friend. Pete Head Frank. McCallum Fine and Rare. Doc, good to see you. I did actually see a comment from Doc earlier, which I'm going to highlight in a moment. Menno's Multi-Mission is in. Menno, good to see you. Luna Aaron. Hello, Luna. Tomato Yoshi. Floyd Rodriguez. Oh, the list goes on. Whiskey Straight Al, good to see you, mate. Neil Laverty. Listen, great to see you all in. Wanted to see, as I said, McCallum, Fine and Rare. The doc said something about discovering yes, this was it, a Tamdu, a bourbon matured Tamdu, and it was very nice. Doc, we will convert you at some point. Doc, as most of you, I'm sure most of you know now from the chat and whatnot that the doc's not a fan of bourbon. Entirely up to him. Entirely up to him. Yes. Good evening. I've decided to call this episode "Drinks with Friends." I've furnished myself with a Guinness. There will be whiskey coming soon because I put out a little note. Peter Box is in. Good to see you, Peter. I put out a little note whenever I advertised this live, saying that I have to shock horror return to work. Yeah, it's just one of those things, isn't it? I mean, you have to keep the money coming in, and this return to work will force me basically to narrow these live feeds down to just once a month rather than once a fortnight, unfortunately, because I do enjoy doing them. Whiskey Wims is in. Stuart, good to see you. Billy Saunders is in. Good to see you guys. Yes, so this will be once a month, unfortunately. McCallum Fenrir, the doc. I know. We won't convert him. He doesn't like bourbon. Fair enough. Sorry. So yes, this will probably, as I say, just come down to once a month rather than once a fortnight, which is unfortunate because I do enjoy doing them. So I did want to what I want to do, or what I want to do tonight, and I've just been really looking forward to this. I've had some great guests on. I have since I started doing the live feeds, and that will continue. But just for tonight, I just wanted to do this on my own and just have a chat with you because I do miss out on a lot of the chat because it's just I do struggle a bit to keep more than one thing going and put words together sometimes. But what I wanted to do, as I say, I just want to chill out, have a chat. That's what I want to do. That's what tonight's about. And as I said, it's called Drinks with Friends. So Whiskey Graham's in. Evening, Graham. Good to see you, my friend. Are you just back from Scotland? I know he was certainly in Scotland on holiday. It'd be interesting to know what was open distillery wise, Graham, because say we should have been there earlier in the year, but just had to cancel it. For those who are interested, I am currently, although I have got a handful now of samples here, all which will be Lee J. Brown. Evening, my friend. I was speaking to Lee J earlier today as well, and we'll get back to Lee J in a minute. All which will be capped tonight by my new coin or my new glass topper collection. I'm sure you have all seen these this week. Roy's just Roy Aquafini has just opened his new shop on online, and these discs, glass toppers, soon to be selling very well. I've seen an awful lot of them popping up. What I'm on tonight, and look at isn't that a lovely color? I love to see a nice, light, naturally colored whiskey. This is actually Caninvi uh, single malt, and it's actually the one I do actually have this bottle, but this is actually from the Belfast Whiskey Week. Was part of their new distilleries set, and it was the only one that I had left that I hadn't opened, and I still had, as I say, I've got a bottle of the single malt here, but I just decided to get this open and get it drained so as I could actually get this away. Luna Arn has it nailed. Des is in. Good to see you, Des. Uh, that was the multitasking gentleman. We're not good at it, Luna. We're not. Some maybe. I'm not. I'm supposed to be the one of the house with the memory, as in if anything gets lost, where are my shoes, etc. I'm the answer to that question usually. I know where it's at, but with regards to doing anything more than one thing at a time, forget it. So yes, this is the Caninvi single malt. If anybody has it, be interested to see what you think of it. Bud Jenkins is in. Bud, good to see you, my friend. As always. Don't know if any of you have had this Caninvi single malt, but very, very nice. One of these days, I'm actually going to try and make myself for the crack. Anybody that's watched my patrons will have seen this week's review already, and it doesn't really matter. I'm going to tell you that it was Balvenie 12-year-old. Pete Head says, is that regarding your own shoes? No, it's usually everybody else's, Frank. Usually everybody else's, mate. Where's my shoes? I'm the one that has to know exactly where they're at. I've what was it? See, I've forgotten already. Everybody talking about having a good memory. Genuinely forgotten where I was going with that. Peter Box is in. I think I've already said hello to you anyway. I tell you where I'm going to go back to. I'm blushing here now because I did genuinely forget what I was saying there. It'll come back to me. So, oh, why that's it did come back to me. This week, I'm going to for the crack or some of these live feeds for the laugh. What I'll do this week's review was Balvenie 12-year-old, and I've got Caninvi here. I've got Balvenie. I've got whatever else makes it up. I'm going to try and make Monkey Shoulder for the laugh. Maybe do that in a live feed some night. Yeah, thanks, Menno. That's Menno, you're the man of the house here tonight. Yes, I'm going to try and make Monkey Shoulder for the laugh some night, just for the fun. But I was taking a bit of a wee bit of a leaf out of my guest from last week's book, Alan. And I just want to join in with the crowd tonight, talk to you guys. It's not going to go on for hours like Alan would, because he's got the stamina and the bladder to do so. I don't. And besides, I can't go too late because I'm going to go tomorrow. I'm going to do something. I didn't really have any subjects to talk about tonight, but I've just decided to bring in a couple of subjects for the crack. And I'm going to go tomorrow and give this to an auction site and sell it because it's a sort of, and I know everybody has their own ways of thinking about it. It's sort of bottle flip because I did buy this knowing that I bought this just over a year ago, knowing that this is the Dunville's 10-year-old. I know there's a few of you out there have samples of it that I sent you at one point. It's the Dunville's 10-year-old, the PX, which went off the market, as I say, around maybe just over a year ago. And I knew it was going off the market. A wee bird told me that, yeah, I know, Stuart, that's what I said. As I say, I could call it one thing, I could call it whatever I wanted, technically it's a ball flip because I knew that this was going off the market, and I thought, well, I'll buy two balls. I'll drink one and see what the other one does. And they're now, I paid £45 for it, and they're now selling for, as Irish whiskey auctions sold two last month, one for €160 and one for €170. Now, if that was great whiskey, if I hadn't tried it, if I hadn't already had a bottle, there's no way I would have parted that. If that was, or if it was great whiskey. But I can tell you here and now that for me, I've had Tyrconnell, I've had Teeling, as in the earlier Teeling. They are pretty much Cooley whiskey. You're looking at Cooley whiskey in that, because it is Cooley whiskey. So Stephen Davidson's in. Good to see you. Oh, sorry, apologies, mate. It wasn't. It was actually one that Malt. Man was Malty mentioned. The whiskey speculator. Yeah, indeed. As I said, it's just one of those things that if it would have been fantastic whiskey, I would open that and drank it all day long. I know everybody does say you shouldn't be, say, oh, the balls are just there to be drank, as etc. And I agree, I do agree. But I'm going to sell that ball and buy myself Scotch. So, as much as there's probably those out there who disagree with a bit of bottle flipping, I'm going to sell it and buy myself something that I will drink and I will enjoy. It could be something I've never tried before, actually. I might not enjoy it, who knows? But it'll be certainly something that I'll have a pop at, rather than having a bottle of something sitting there over time, and then just not going anywhere. Menno, yeah, again, actually, you're 100% right, Menno, but you tend to find, or what I've tended to find with a lot of these new distilleries opening, that more so if it's not Cooley, it's Bushmills. Middleton, I could be wrong, but Middleton generally seem to have their hands pretty full. If you think about the amount of what they're doing with all the red breasts, all the spots, all the powers, all the they have an awful lot going on. So I don't know. And Middleton doesn't seem to appear just the same, as I say, as in somebody, because the other thing to remember is that sorry, Tony Evans just in. Hello, Tony. That Middleton, or that the Bushmills are getting their grain whiskey from Middleton. So there's a lot of, still an awful lot of this going on in the Irish whiskey. It's a hand. I give you some, you give me. Desi Vleeland, Jimmy Jazz in. Good evening, guys. So yes, still trying. It's still very difficult to keep up with the chat, even though that's what I'm pretty much trying to focus on. So if I do miss something, please, somebody start shouting at me. Cheers. Yes. So I'm going to get to tonight's first sample. And when I take the lid off this glass, I will place it on my Canenvy and have it later. Now, the reason I'm going on to this one first is, and this is from somebody who's in the room tonight. Actually, most of these samples are from people who are in tonight, so I'm actually very pleased about that. This was one, Kresimir Jelchik. Great to see you, Kresimir. This is this was arrived this morning. There's a couple that arrived this morning, and this is from Lee J. Brown, who's in. Thank you, Lee J. And he promised me. Lee J and I swapped some samples the last week, and both of us, as per usual, were sort of let down by the UK Postal Service. But They got there in the end. Whiskey Pilgrim, good evening. Frederick, good to see you, my friend. So this is the Cotswolds uh, single malt. Now this is actually the batch. This one's it's the Odyssey Barley batch one 2019. This I think that's actually a picture. The picture that I have there might be the batch four, but we get the idea that that's what it is. So we're looking at we're kicking off with a bit of English whiskey. Absolutely no harm in that. Graham Horner says, I tell you, Graham, I'm only after I'm only after giving off about the UK postal service. Pardon me, but our postman. I live out, as I've said to you before. I live out in the sticks a bit, and our postman is usually here around. You could aim for about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So if you are waiting for something important, forget it. You're not going to get it that early. Kids' exam results, everything, forget it. So Bishop Burn boy in, good evening. So when the postman actually arrived this morning with two parcels for me, which I wasn't expecting, Lee J did say he was, but I just didn't expect them that quick. And I did feel a bit like Christmas. Everybody loves samples coming in, don't they? So yes, very much appreciate it. So yes, that's what Stuart say. You have went downhill, Stuart. Stuart, if it's not Scotch, hey mate, if it's not Scotch, Bud, yes, it's I'm warming up with a Guinness, a good old fashioned. This will pull Stuart back in. He likes his Guinness, good old fashioned Guinness draft, hard to beat. So this is this Cotswold single malt, Cotswold. I'm sure everybody will probably pronounce it slightly different, but hey, it's whiskey. We all pronounce these things slightly differently, don't we? Straight off the bat, I don't think I've had Cotswolds. I've had a couple, maybe three English. I've had Bimber. I've had the one. Who makes the one? It's English, isn't it? And Lee J's on the RN10, which I sent to him. So I'd be interested to know your thoughts on the RN10. Johnny H is in. Good to see you. So give you a little bit of information on that. Craig's Whiskey Guides asking us cast strength. No, it's 46%. As I say, that's Odyssey barley. So there's a bit of, you're expecting some, it's non-chill filtered and no color added. And it's a lovely color. Hold on, I'll just pull back up. It is a very nice golden color, I think. Yes, Greg, you're 100% right. I completely forgot that. It's the Lakes distillery that makes the one. So that's it's a big nose, bit like my own. Weird. Macallan Fine and Rare. Uh, bear with me, Doc. Billy will have his moment in the sun here just in a moment. It's a nice. It almost reminds me. It's quite spirity. I was going to say it's quite young because it is quite young. It's only 3 year old. It's 2016. 2000, no, sorry, it's 4 year old. 2014, 2015. Bought 2019. I think that is. Uh, quite spirity. Not a whole lot happening in the nose. It's a bit meaty, actually. Budget Drams, Lee is in. Good to see you, Lee. It's quite sporadic, but it's got a sugary thing going on, powdery, sugary thing. Billy, I'm sure, I just want to say, Billy Saunders, as he says here, Cotswolds is his local distillery. Interested to know, have you tried this one, Billy? I would imagine you have. Slightly soapy note. I don't want to waste too much time over these because this could go on a while tonight. Yeah. Citrusy. Yeah. Mm. Not the palate I was expecting. I'm going to keep. I'm going to keep quite a bit of this, Lee J, because I want to. I want to sit down at some point and actually go over these with a bit of time. Comes quite spirity again at the back. Um, nice, fresh, quite sharp. Mm. But what I will say about it is, feels like a well-made spirit. Nice finish. That has a very, very nice finish for me. In that it's sharp. It's not dry. Malt Punk's in. Good evening. It just, and it leaves. It's relatively short, I would say. Finish. Going to try a little water in it. So Billy says that for him, that the Odyssey is their weakest offering. So it'll be interesting to see. I was thinking that maybe Graham. Although I don't know how it would work on video. A game of smell my finger or something like that. It would need more, being more than one person in the room. But yeah, mm, fresh, spirity, water. Did water help? I don't think it did. I think it actually thinned it a little too much. Mind you, I didn't add a lot of water to that. So the reason why Billy is coming into the spotlight is Billy sent me this one, which is, if you bear with me, uh, this is the Sautern finish, which is oh man, it's so long from I've been on this that I'm sort of struggling to get round screen shares, etc. If you bear with me. Yeah. This is the one. It's not a great picture of that. But this is the Cotswold Sautern 55.2%. What's that say, Billy? It's the Hearts Be Craft series. Is that says? David Owens in. Good evening, David. Molasses. This will be interesting. So I'll keep some of that. I'll keep quite a bit of that as well, Billy, because I just want to go back into these. I should actually be writing down uh, what's and what, because well, what I'll do is I'll put the little sample bottle. Bear with me. If you don't see my head, I'm still here. I'll put the sample bottle behind the actual sample itself. Yes, this is the Cotswolds, the Sauterne. Oh, no, that's interesting. Here, there's plenty to get on that. For 55.2%, it certainly doesn't fight you on the nose. Yeah, nice. There's almost a buttery. There's almost a buttery thing on that. It's buttery, but it is winey. It is, there is a winey feel to it. Very pleasant, but an awful lot going on in it. I take it we are looking. What year did the Cotswolds Distillery open? So we are looking at young whiskies, but Che Francis is in. Good evening, Che. Mm. Slight rubbery note. Starts very, very good. Slight rubbery note comes in quite early. So multi-mission. Menno thinks that, well, aye, Billy Saunders saying 2014 the distillery opened. So we are looking at young whiskies, but yeah, this is actually the more it sits in the glass, it's got a very winey nose. But, but considering I like wine, I'm not complaining. Uh, I didn't do my homework on this today. I probably should have done my homework on this today. Uh, I'm going to ask Billy once again, like he's the basically the guy behind Cotswolds Distillery itself. If he knows what the maturation is in this, or if he's any idea what the maturation is in this. Mm, mm. That just gets better. It even doesn't, even at 55.2%, it doesn't fight, as I said, it didn't fight in the nose, it doesn't fight you in the palate either. Mm. I noticed quite quite expensive for a non-age statement whiskey, but there's it's back to this thing. It's high ABV. It's the tender, loving care that it gets. I'm just going to answer some for, and it's sorry, the chat moved up. Yes, Luna Aaron, I believe that is that the one that whiskey wins? Was it the Chilean red, the Chilean Cabernet that you just did the review on, Stuart? If you're there, maybe it wasn't. I watched your review, but I can't. There's a few of those long row reds. This is very nice, Billy. Very nice. Thank you very much. Pardon me. I do. I do like a wine finish, and this one I noticed. Lee from Budget Drams. Somebody said something earlier on about liking wine, but not it's the dryness of some of them. But this doesn't. This certainly doesn't dry. This is actually leaves a very nice round, fleshy finish. Mm. Mm. Yeah. Sorry, Luna. I'm trying to win Stuart over again. Yes, that was Stuart that, and I do believe he liked it quite a bit. That long road Chilean. So if I would watch his review, there you go. Ex red wine barrels, approximately 4 years old, premium French oak casks. There's an awful lot of influence on this whiskey. That is a winey finish and a half. Uh, but it doesn't, it plays well. Sorry, Greg, was just mentioning there about the Cabernet Sauvignon matured. When it's done right, it's done right. I mean, this is young whiskey. This is nice for me. Stuart, and I mean, I appreciate it. I ain't going to turn it away. This is the long road that we were discussing. Cheers, buddy. Right, I'm going to move on and up, well, across. I'm trying to keep these samples, as I say, together in such a way. You know it's going to be a big night. When one was starting with a Guinness. Cheers. And two, I had to bring a table in. So many samples have I on the go here that I had to bring a table in. And if I'm going to move on, fresh glass, so many glasses now. The Belfast Whiskey Week helped that. And yes, Billy, just sorry, before we move on, thank you so much, my friend. I really did enjoy that. And as I say, I've plenty there that I'll take a bit more time over. I'm moving my samples around and moving up to, this has turned into almost, as if anybody's been watching the Whiskey Pilgrim Frederick's Hand of Doom. That's what this has turned into tonight. So I'm moving on. I'll pour it in a second. I'm going to pull up what it is first. If you just bear with me. You see people that have two screens going. Oh man, I'm so in awe of them. Rather than just having one screen, which I have here, because I'm relying then on everything, and that ain't the one that I want. Somebody out there is going to recognize these straight away. I'll nearly guarantee this isn't the one I want either. Nope. Third time lucky. That's the one. Literally. That is the one. So as I say, there'll be somebody out there already knows what I'm doing. Yes, Macallan Fine and Rare. It's not Macallan. It's not Doc. It's not number three. It is St. Killian. It's not number two. Yeah, I counted down. And these are samples from Lunaran. And I have the three of them. Uh, these are petite samples, Luna, which I like. And I'm just going to get stuck into these. And these will be drained tonight, but I'll maybe not empty the glass. Uh, oh, Des is actually, do you know? Yeah, it is. It is a good palate cleanser, actually. Oh, that is beautiful. And that's actually getting back to now for anyone who's not in the know, I've got a big stupid line up that picture. I don't know why. It's just a bad bit of editing on my behalf. St. Killian, German distillery. Maybe in the chat, Luna or the doc could give us a bit of history on it. I probably should have done. I would say that would have been an interesting weekend. Yeah, this is a very. What did I see? This was at. It's 45%, right? 3-year-old whiskey, and it comes in so gentle. Oh yeah, yeah, incredibly gentle, sweet, soft, light fruit. Just want sorry, Lee J's on the Aaron 10-year-old sample which I sent him. I did ask, I did say I'd be interested to know. I actually haven't visited the Aaron 10 for a while, so I'll have to go back to it. So, yes, gentle, sweet. I'm going to have a go at this. Hmm. Weirdly, weirdly. Oh, and that nose just everything just carries through into the palate. Gentle sweetness, soft. It's weird even to say about fruit. It just mm, it's bizarre because I was having, and what I'm going to do is I was having that. Now this is the one that I poured earlier. That I was drinking whenever we come on the Caninvi single malt, and I'm not gonna say it because the more this is sat with a cap on it, the more this is sat open, let the air at it. It has been capped, but it's just getting to breathe a bit. It's turning into toffee. Oh yes, this Caninvi's going all caramel toffee. But when that is not And when you just pour that canenvi into a glass, it's quite similar. This is quite similar. This, yet again, which I find with a lot of a a lot of the European whiskies that I have tried is that they tend to feel Scotch like. It's maybe just me, but they certainly don't feel different, and that they don't feel like as if there's something that you've never tasted before. They don't feel like bourbon. They don't feel like Irish. They tend to feel more like a, and I would say this is something like a Highland Scotch or a Speyside sort of feel. Is it Speyside? No, but and yet the more it's been sitting in the glass now, it's starting to feel a wee bit more spirity. So the doc's saying St. Killian founded about 4 years ago, all Scottish equipment, and they're known to use a lot of different casks, biggest malt distillery in Germany. So there you go. Thank you, Doc. And I know Luna's been jumping in there to help us out as well. Some of the facts. It's, as I said, this is very, very pleasant, is what I would say about it. It's not incredible. It's not, as in, it's not something that's brand new. I think that's basically the way I would, sorry, I would describe that better. But very, very pleasant, very, very easy sipper. And that little bit of agitation there brings that out. I'm going to add a little drop of water. I'm going to try it again, and then I'm going to put a cap on it and let it settle. And the water has pulled a lot out there straight away on the nose. It's so the one is a mix of bourbon, sherry, and chestnut casks. Some rum as well. Not feeling, not feeling any. Just personally, I'm not feeling a lot of sherry influence. But at the end of the day, if the distillery was only founded 4 years ago, you know, if how much influence are each of those casks having? You know, really. So I'm just saying the water, as I say, has pulled out. Mm, mm, mm. Water actually softened it, but rounded it. Still very fresh. A little malty now. Yeah, very nice. Nice, fresh, gentle. So that one goes in there, gets a cap on it. The bottle goes behind it, and then I'll know where it is the next time. So you've already seen these going round, but you probably know what's coming next. If I can find it in the first go, I should have really looked to see. Was it the white one? Was the nope? Ah, you curse. Uh, it's one of them. It's certainly. I bet you this is the one. No, I'm going to go for this one. Is that the one I just pulled out a minute ago? There we go. Two. Two we're hitting this time. Let's get these in the right order because there are all three of them here. This one, ooh, bottled at, as you can see there on the bottle, bottled at 54.2%. So quite the step up for them here. This will be interesting. Sorry, I'm just laughing at Menno. Another little interesting tidbit here. Killian says that due to the climate, maturation is about 1.5 times. So you're looking, really, what are you looking at there? You're looking at a 6-year-old whiskey technically. If I'm, if I was saying that was 4-year-old, one and under, that's what I'm guessing that you're saying there, Doc. Now this is a different nose, and Lunarn has given us probably the reason why it's a totally different nose. That's Amazon cast full maturation. That's weird. That's quite a weird. Weird, funky high note in that. That is bizarre. That note, I can't. Slightly fusty. It almost feels like it almost has a smells like a winey thing again. Amarone. I was gonna say if you said Amazon, that's why I was sort of rolling my eye. I thought it was Amarone. You meant that is. I can't quite describe that one. Certainly different. And these were all released in 2019, and it's not like as if they were released as a series. So because they're totally different, and the labeling, and fair play to them, the labeling makes them very different. They, if there's color in there, I don't know. That is a nice color, even if there is color added. Obviously, if there's color in, being German, it'll have to state whether there's color in or not. Richard Ignew's in. Good evening, Richard. Or what have you? Good afternoon, I suppose. That is a strange nose in that one. Mm. 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 Sorry, I can't help myself. I do turn into whiskey Jason whenever I'm tasting whiskey now for some reason. Mm. Yeah, that one just gets better and better, and it's even. And I'm going to go back to this thing that I said before, where I find a balance comes between the whiskey going over the back of the palate, and then the nose changes slightly. And this has done that. The nose has got it's washed over the back of the palate. The nose has improved because there was a slight funk, a burnt rubber or something like that in the nose, which it wasn't, and it becomes more of a winey feel then. Mm. Well, incredibly rich, chocolatey palate. Bald, as I say, what was that? 54.2%. Yet again, doesn't fight. Let's wash the palate, shall we? Yeah. Des Guinness is a good palate cleanser. Let's give that water a little time. Well, the doc says, and so they're using small casks in in higher temperatures. So yeah, I mean, you're getting to that point where you really are looking at short maturation time to get what you desire, aren't you? Fair play. And that's this is something else. And we all know, I mean, that German German law states that they have to state on the bottle whether there's been color added. And obviously, and Luna Aaron had said something a while ago that was there was no color added, no chill filtration. Like I've noticed an awful lot of these newer distilleries doing, and I think are we looking at a bit of a bit of a change up with the new distilleries coming through? Are they are they listening to us, the whiskey drinkers? Oh, pardon me, that's the Guinness. Are they actually listening to the whiskey drinkers and saying this is actually what they want, so we'll give them what they want, rather than the older hands, all the old Irish, all the old Scottish, all the old, well, bourbon doesn't really come into it, but where they're just going to stick to the old plan. Oh, we'll just keep peddling out the whiskey the way we always did it. I do like to see that a lot of these newer distilleries are listening or appear to be listening to the whiskey drinkers. Still quite a whiny nose off that, which is strange. Graham Horner, Graham Horner, and I. I'm not going to say too much about this. Just read quickly. I will be finishing with it, Graham. Mm, right, just before I set that there, got a very very malty note off it. Mm, rich, voluminous. Water has actually made it feel more like it's 54.2%. Yeah. Mm. Yeah, thank you, Luna. I appreciate all of these, but that one, St. Killian 2, 54.2%. I really like. That's got chutzpah, it's got oomph. It's now I don't want to fall into the trap, and I believe Greg and I have talked about this in the past, where it's very, very easy to fall into the past or fall into the trap, and I really don't want to fall into this, where you just we've got to a point where now everything's about volume, everything's about having as much boof in that whiskey as you can get, and then it just and then you thin it to your palate, etc., which is fair enough. But we forget then that with age, you lose a lot of your oomph and stuff like that. So it tends to you tend to then maybe fall away from some of the whiskies as well. So good to see. Peter Boss, before I move on, I just noticed this comment and I thought very clever because you're 100% right. This is the thing. They these distilleries are whiskey fans themselves, so they're putting it out the way they want it. Very well, pretty much very well put there, Peter. I like what you're saying. And good to see multi-mission like that. And Luna shared a sample with him too. So moving on, you can nearly guess where this is going, can't you? As in, I'll probably balls it up, but I believe that yes, I was paying attention earlier. So the white one, you know, I couldn't. I actually thought the two. I thought 1 and 3 were the black labels and 2 was the white label then, but no, this is 3. So 50% 3-year-old as per, and this obviously has peat in it of some shape or form. There's been peat in this maturation somewhere. Slap me with a wet fish if there hasn't. I mean, it's Eric Wait is in. Eric, good to see you, buddy. Yeah, I actually noticed that. Man, whenever I was looking these up, whenever I was trying to find pictures, etc., of the bottles, I seen they were up to 5. I seen the 5, and I seen so. But here, fair play to them. They're doing well. Yes, Eric's and Smoky California. It's be interesting to know, is this bought in is this bought in uh, peated barley? I imagine, or do they peat themselves, or there has to be peat in that. That's a really fresh, sweet, subtle. I want to say seasonal. I don't know why. Yeah, so they are actually using, Luna says they are actually using peanut malt from Scotland. I thought so because, and I'm glad to hear that, because better that than buying a cask, an ex-peated cask, and trying to peat it that way, because that to me can be a failure, has been a failure in the past, has been a success for some people, but just generally get it in the barley and then make what you can of it. So it's 38. It's 38 ppm. It is actually quite peat. It's it's a soft peat. I'm trying to think of a, the way you sort of think then, well, it's here it is. What could I hang a hook on and say it's like that peat wise? Because it's not heavily peated, but it's not lightly peated like a Bamore or something like that, where it's just sweet and the peat just becomes a sweet sickly thing. It's almost to the point where this one is it's almost, it does become sweet, but a nice sweet peat. Yet again, like something I've noticed in there, and it must be in their spirit. It's quite sweet, sugary, which is I've noticed in all three of them. Hmm. Mm. Well, it just becomes sugary, sweet, and pleasant, and floral, and plays about. Uh, yes, Eric, I agree. As I say, it can be done, and it depends an awful lot on the distillery, doesn't it? Those that's putting that whiskey out, as to how peated you want it, how much play it has on the whiskey itself. because I find a lot of Irish whiskey drinkers still don't like peated whiskey. You tend to find if there's even your Connemara peated stuff like that. Well, Connemara peated is actually obviously peated is peated malt, but sorry, it wasn't them I was thinking of. It was Dunville's yet again. The Three Crowns peated is finished in peated casks, and it's awful in my opinion. It's just dreadful. There's a friend at hand here in Ireland, which is and yet again it was down to somebody not necessarily liking peated whiskey that much, pulling the whiskey too soon before it gets peated, before the peat has any influence. I also then, and I've talked about this recently, and I think this was incredibly clever actually, was uh, Brendan at Cologne Distillery using ex peated casks to take the sweetness out of the grain and to just to bring an absolute balance to it, and replacing that sweetness with a peat sweet instead of the grain sweetness worked incredibly well. So it just depends, I suppose. You know, if you're a real peat head, if you're a real peat fan, sometimes the peated casks can feel a bit, because it depends yet again on how badly used or how much use the cask has already had, doesn't it? This here is actually the longer. I'm looking forward to capping this one and letting it sit, because the longer I imagine this one sits in the glass, the better it's going to get. Whiskey Straight Al is asking if I tried the Hinch peated. I have. I actually tried it at the Hinch launch, the Hinch distillery launch. It's not bad, and it's done the right way. It is actually done the right way. It's, as when I say the right way, I mean peated malt, you know. But it's not bad. It's I've had better peated whiskies. I I, I recommend you try it, Eric. Just it just to me just does not work. There's two Three Crowns, Dunville's Three Crowns. There's the non-peated and there's a peated one, and it just doesn't work. And even I'm not a fan, a massive fan of Connemara anymore. Connemara to me was a great peated Irish whiskey, but I'm I'm also, like a lot of people, I think, a victim of being a peat fan, that you just want more and more and more, and then when you go backwards and you try you know, if you get to the point where you're enjoying Ardbegs and that sort of thing as a normal, you know, this is just everyday peat, and then step back to something that's very very weak and peat, it just weak and watery, oh, just doesn't work for me. This is actually very very well balanced for me. There's even uh, a sea saltiness about it or something. I want to keep this. I'm going to keep as much of this in the glass as I can, because that the longer that's sitting, the peatier it's getting. The peat's starting to turn up, and I find that a bit. Well, Lechic 10, Lechic 10, I'm a huge fan of, and it is what I call a peat sleeper. And this is one I would say is a peat sleeper. And what I mean whenever I say a peat sleeper, the peat just sits there, sits at the back, sits underneath, just be quiet, doesn't say anything, doesn't play with the rest of the children. And then the longer it sits in the glass, it just builds up, builds up, builds up, and then just hits you with a slap at some point. Richard at News saying that he's going to visit. I was blessed, Richard, and I think actually I maybe missed it, but I think at one point Whiskey Street Al said that it had a tour of the distillery as well, and I was very blessed a couple of months back to get a tour of the distillery as it stands. Obviously, it's not open yet; it'll be open very soon. Uh, and it's probably gonna, yeah, I would imagine it's gonna be pretty impressive. But they all look impressive, don't they? It's what they put out. So it'll be interesting to see what they put out. This, yeah, this is I have to say, Luna, as a Pete fan, loving that number two, the yeah, it's gone. I can't remember what it was again, but loved it. But just as a Pete fan, yeah, I love that. Uh, Eric, before we move on, sorry, skip there. Eric, before we move on, please, I imagine you probably will anyway. Just when you do, even if it means contacting me or do a review on it or something, just love to hear your thoughts on that one, on the Three Crowns. Mm, mm, mm. Yeah, that's lovely. Nice, gentle. I know how to describe this. It's an easy sipping peat whiskey. It's got enough, really has got enough going on, more than enough going on to fit well in with the peated group. Mm, mm. Yeah, I really do like that actually. It becomes slightly orangey. There's a hint of orange going on there. Yeah, very nice. Sorry, Al. Yes, I agree. I think this is part of the problem that that the more peat is moreish. There's that word again, isn't it? Peat is moreish. The more you get into your peat, the more you enjoy it. So onwards and upwards. Where are we going to now? Well, while we're on the subject of peat, this is one that's been hanging around a while. I've got a couple of samples left here before I go. I'm going to run on a bit tonight. As I say, I'm not going to do a Alan the whiskey friend, but I will be around for slightly longer. Lee J Brown. So a good entry level. Yeah, but it does actually get that the peat is quite strong in that. The peat plays quite heavily on it after a while, and we've we've discussed. I know we've discussed this in the past in V pubs, etc., about how you become how how you can become a little nose blind and how you can become peat blind, and that uh, sometimes it just doesn't jump out because you get so used to it. It's just if you start to like peat, it just becomes another nose, and that's a good thing. I think that it's just another, because I know there are actually folk in here that certainly were earlier on friends of mine or in the whiskey community who don't like peated whiskey. Fair enough. They're not broken. It's just their choice. Uh, but that it's it's just another note, isn't it? Really is the way I look at it. Although it's a note that some people don't like, or it's the medicinal thing, isn't it? That I think people fall out with. I feel quite blessed that I liked peated whiskey from the get go. There, my journey started. I think I maybe mentioned this before, a long time ago, but I was never on a whiskey journey then. It was just I liked whiskey. I wasn't, I discovered I liked whiskey, and I discovered very, very early on that I liked peated whiskey. along with others. So it felt an awful lot easier for me then. And this is why I'll still jump around with bourbons, etc. Because it's just like to try. I like to try whiskies from everywhere, see what's going on. So share screen again. I'll not get this one wrong because I know what this one looks like. It's just getting it. There we go. This is one from my good friend Malcolm Douglas, and this is the 2019 committee release of Ardbeg Supernova. Just talking about peanut whiskey, and I genuinely, I've been totally honest, I didn't realize that that third St. Killian was peated. So I'm actually glad now that I've worked up in this way. Now, before we move on, I just noticed another one because it's all about drinks with friends. As a beginner, what would be a good place to start with peat? Now, personally, I recommend uh, I recommend Talisker for people to start, but I'm actually going to jump into the chat and ask those in the chat to help out. Eric, as somebody who loves peanut whiskey, I want you to help us out here, mate. And anybody else, a good place to start. Actually, sorry, the doc is right as well. Highland Park, certainly. Highland Park 12 is a good place to start. There's enough peat. And it's only recently that I revisited Highland Park 12. And yeah, the peat is definitely, it is a bigger, there's more peat there than I remember there being, put it like that. So yeah, start something there. Oh, holy moly. So Ardbeg Supernova 50. This is the say the committee release. 53.8%. It is a weird beast here. I've had Ardbeg and I haven't really had a lot of action. That's what I'm going to say. I've I've had the 10, I've had the wee beastie, I think I've had the Anoa. I don't know whether I've had an awful lot else than that. I would like to because I love Ardbeg whiskey, but it's just too damned expensive, isn't it? And before we move on, sorry, Che Francis said something. I totally agree. Kilhoman is going to actually is going to come up with me again. I can't wait to try aged Cologne or Cologne. Sorry, I'm saying Cologne. That was the Irish. Sorry. I really can't wait to. There's enough age behind Cologne whiskey that it comes out with an. It is the creamiest, most unctuous peated whiskey. I love like, and I'm just talking about Macker Bay. Their entry range. It's expensive, but I think it's a stunning whiskey. So Eric is saying that he began his love with Ardbeg 10. This is the thing. It can be now malty. This is say Supernova malty, and I haven't said it in a long time because it yet again it's that peat blindness to a certain extent, medicinal. This is weird because this becomes medicinal again. The peat stops. Now, I'm going to say something here. There's probably those of us who know what I'm talking about. A peat fire, just a peat fire in a house. There'll be those in here who knows what peat fire smells like. People who are new to peated whiskey say, it tastes medicinal or smells medicinal. I generally tell them, no, it smells like a peat fire. Oh, I can understand what you're saying. It smells like TCP. That's what they say. It smells like TCP. I used to actually, would you believe, I was so anal, such a nerd was I, that I would actually, if anybody come into the house and said it smells like TCP, I would offer them up a bottle of TCP. Now, anybody that doesn't know what TCP is, Whiskey Street Al's going to explain it. Go ahead, Al. Uh, it's basically iodine, and but very, very strong medicinal. Uh, and I would say to them, no, it's not. So here, there's it's you say that smells like TCP. Here's a bottle of TCP. Smell it and tell me that the two of them smell alike. And and they were always quite, all right, okay, no, they don't smell like, and they don't. But neither would you say a peat fire smells like peated whiskey, or would you imagine a peat fire smells like peated whiskey until you put the two of them together, and then you go, oh, I didn't realize a peat fire smelled like TCP, and it's because it bloody doesn't. This is why, it's one of those things that uh, uh that. And sorry, I just Greg, yes, 100% antiseptic hospital material. That's pretty much what I was aiming at. And you don't get that peated whiskey. If you smell a peat fire, a real good peat fire, and the time I noticed this, the first time I noticed this was, 10 years ago. I had a peat fire in the house. I was burning peat in the house, and whatever way the wind brought the smoke round the back of the house, I just walked straight out and just got a great big nose full of it. And that to me straight away was, oh, well, hold on, that's peat. That's peated whiskey. And a friend in Belfast who didn't like peated whiskey for the same reason, TCP, it said, no, it's TCP. I wouldn't drink that. And I says to him, no, it's a peat fire. Try it. And I seen him a few months later, and he said that. He says, you're 100% right, Jim. It's a peat fire. It's not TCP. It's peat smoke, because that's what it is. And it smells like it and it tastes like it, and it's beautiful. There you go. Oh, this is incredibly, as I said at the start, because it's medicinal, but then it's fruity and medicinal. I think sorry, but more just still, I think it's what they do with it. They just do something wrong. I think it's medicinal, but then just becomes all big fruit, orange, uh, not watermelon, not even melon, but fleshy fruit like orange. Oh, that's nice. Mm, mm. It's Ardbeg do it right for me. Ardbeg know how to do it right. The peat starts out. The peat starts out sweet, fruity. All those medicinal notes become sweet, fruity. I find this with Ardbeg 10 even earthy, and then they just become more and more earthy. Mm. Mm-mm-mm. I know Malcolm Douglas isn't in here tonight, but Malcolm, if you're watching this at any point, thank you very much, my friend. It just becomes earthy, bonfire, mossy, old wood, still too damned expensive, in my opinion, for what they do. It's fantastic. Don't get me wrong, but how many of these? I don't think Malcolm has it on the bottle here, but how many bottles of this went out? How many bottles were you able to get hold of? You know, I take it this is the before 15 Al that we're discussing. Oh, brilliant. I don't want to say it, Al, but I know you fairly well, and you've painted a picture so well in my head there that almost imagine you've been there. Ah, this is incredible stuff. But yet again, is as incredible as the price? I don't think so. Goes a little bitter after a while. I'm gonna have to try. um, This is part of the problem with washing one's palate with Guinness. Is you start to wonder, is it the Guinness or is it the whiskey? So I've just washed my palate with water there, give it a good clean. I've added a little water to this, still very, very fruity. And also, now that I've added a little water, quite strong. Mm, but that palate, mm, 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 that palate. Yeah, very, very nice. Very, very nice. Now, I have one more. I've been through some glasses tonight, and I've got well, I've actually got two, but I'm down to my last coin, and it's the evangelist one. Uh, so I'll move it to there for now, and I'm down to my last sample for the night. Mm-mm. Sorry. Uh, yeah, I always start laughing first because I always read these before I fire them up. Very good. And what makes that even funnier is that probably not an awful lot of people realize out there that your daughter's what, 8, 9, maybe 10, not 100% sure, but she's young anyway. So yes, I can sympathize, my friend. I can sympathize. So uh, before we move on, I'm going to actually, have you ever had peated new makes? Like the story in Allendale. Forgot about your perception. I haven't, Eric, and it's something I like the sounds of that uh, because I haven't had lag distillery, but I've had Annandale, and Greg and I were talking about it something recently. The Annandale Man of Swords, but it isn't peated like, but just a lovely yet again for a new distillery, lovely stuff, and it also brings a subject to mind that I've been thinking about recently. And yet again, I discussed this with, I think it was Alan McLaughlin within the community, and it was about distilleries releasing new make. And there's so many new distilleries out there, so many so many new distilleries putting out. Sorry, I just had to put this out, and I've gone all blurry. Sorry, just pause. Recalibrating. Uh, cheers, Alan. I know that. Appreciate that, and tell her hi in the morning for me. Um, because of these new distilleries out there, that they're not in a position, if they're not working in gins, if they're not buying in, especially. I've had this beef quite a bit now. There'll be those in there who haven't heard me, and it's with the Irish distilleries just working away on their own, putting out gin or something, which is fair enough. The revenue has to come in, and we'll see. We were talking about Hinch earlier on. We'll see Hinch do it. They've got this little gin uh, still, a very, very pretty thing it is, that will be pumping out ninth wave while they're working away on their new whiskey. And that whiskey won't be around for a while, as we all know. So what they're doing, they're buying it in from elsewhere, or they already have casks of whiskey sitting that they will use. But we find that an awful lot, I've noticed that an awful lot of the new Scottish distilleries are putting out new make, which I actually think is brilliant. And I had this discussion with, I think it was actually Alan McLaughlin within the community. And as I said, I would actually like to see more do it. I would like to go back and see. Uh, well, Eric's actually agreeing with me here that, you know, he buys it for new make purposes, or for learning purposes, and that's what I mean. This is, how many distilleries do we know? If I asked you to list off distillery, you could name. I imagine most of us could name 50 distilleries just like that, without having to think about it too hard. An awful lot of them are old distilleries owned by big conglomerates, owned by Diageo, owned by Grant's, owned by this one, owned by that one. And I think, I am a nerd. The whiskey friend who had on last week called me called me a bit of a nerd, and he was right, because I'm a nerd. I'm quite happy to own up to it, and I would love for these distilleries to put out a 20 cl bottle of new make, all of them. Going back to the Glenmorangies, the Glenfiddichs, Springbank. I want to know what Springbank tastes like before it's been in a cask for 3 years. I just want to know that, because I need to know. It's not going to prove anything. Just put a small bottle of new make spirit. Don't charge a bunch for it. Just put it out. Charge a tenner a bottle, something stupid. Let me know what it tastes like before it has spent 3 years in a cask, before it has spent 10 years in a cask, and then 2 years in another cask, to the point where I have no idea what this whiskey tastes like. What was it in the first place? And nice to see Al agrees. That I just think it would be fun. It would be fun. It would be something. It would give us an idea. Luna's obviously been in Springbank. As I say, my tour was cancelled. I'll be there next year, hopefully. But I want to know what these things taste and smell like. I'm open to tasting and smelling spirits. And here, for your delectation, I'm just about to do so. I also received this morning this. Now, it's obviously a sample ball from Master of Malt. I would imagine that was one of the drinks by the dram samples. Nothing written on it. Absolutely. So, if he's still, I really hope he's still in here because it was Graham Horner that sent this. And it actually took a little, because it was it wasn't even anything. He sent another couple of samples, and there wasn't even anything on the packaging to say what it was. So, all right, Mano, all right. He's trying to out nerd me. Oh, happy days. Graham is still in. Well, this is Graham sent me this. It took a little, as I say, there was no none in the packaging to say who it was from. Just buys a couple of samples and this little bottle of stuff. Now, uh, what does it smell like? It smells like mouthwash. I don't know what it is, although it does smell. It's incredibly minty, but also it's not just mint. It's not. It's not mouthwash. It's not just mint. It's wild mint. If you know what wild mint smells like, if you're ever along a river bank or and you'll get wild garlic and wild mint and that sort of thing. It's actually wild mint because it's an incredibly herbaceous mint. It's not just mint. Now, Lunaran says, is it rye? Greg's Whiskey Guide says, is it rye? No. You know what I think it is? Now, I could be completely wrong here as well. I don't know what it is, but I'm going to hazard a guess before I sip it that it's poaching. And I would imagine it's pretty strong as well. Graham and I were chatting about this earlier on before I went on this morning, actually, whenever I finally discovered who sent me it. And he, at that point, hadn't even tasted this. Or, you know. So, says I to him, this could be the cure that the world has been waiting for. This could be the very one. It's yeah. The more you nose that, the more wild it smells. Uh, yeah, it's 80% punching. So says I to there you go. There is the history behind it. So says I to Graham, this could be the cure that the world's waiting for, or I could wake up blind in the morning because the you see, Greg saying what's the ABV? Greg, I don't think I don't know whether there was an ABV. I don't think he had actually got an ABV on it. Remembering, of course, Remembering, of course, pardon me, this, it's not that this is choking me. I'm just not used to talking to anybody for this long. Lockdown's been a very long time where I'm not shouting at the kids or something. Yeah, so everybody's got it. It's pretty much, yeah. Luna's got it, but don't tell anybody. This would have actually been a clear spirit. Lee J. Brown, checking out. Listen, thank you for being in, from my friend. Thank you for the samples. Very, very much appreciated, Lee J. This would have been clear spirit. So it just shows you this would have been absolutely clear that 4 months with the stave in it has turned it this color. I am taking it. But yeah, very, very wild, wild, herbaceous notes about it. Sorry, I've had a fan going, trying to cool me down. And now there we go. So here we go. Uh, it's been nice knowing you people. I'm hoping actually that Graham's joining in here and that I'm not alone in drinking this because you know it's not a bad nose. It's like very, very minty, but very wild mint, very green leaf. And tastes incredibly minty. That's pretty much. You've simply mouthwash, haven't you? It's not really spirity, bizarrely. It's not incredibly spirity. It doesn't leave a long, lingering, burning finish, like that. I, like an awful lot of Irish people, have had my turn with poaching. Very good, Menno. Very good. I'll give you credit for that one, my friend. I suppose to a certain extent, Doc, poaching is vodka. Yeah, it's pretty much taste of spirit. Yeah, it just or flavorless spirit, should I say? You get to that point that there's no clarity in it. Where vodka is a case of you take it to your, I can't remember, is it 90%, 97% ABV, the stop at something or up around that level, the strip vodka off at before it goes completely just alcoholic spirit. Uh, and then you're looking at gin or whatever, you add your flavor to it, or you've got vodka. Yes, but poaching, you wouldn't know what ABV it is. I mean, obviously it can't, to go any higher than that is not alcohol, or it's not alcohol anymore. It's just, so yeah, it's weird stuff. Potentially foxes. So so this has actually maybe been flavored prior to it, because well, there you are. X is 95% plus. I think it's 97% is the cutoff. Whenever I was doing the WSETs, I think it was 97% said that the cutoff at, and because beyond 97%, it just becomes medicinal alcohol. It becomes rubbing alcohol. There's still a little flavor profile at 97%. So when it goes through the column stills, they basically just strip it off at that point, and you know you get these distilleries that'll just, if you're making rum or whatever, they can take it off, as we all know, at whatever point, and make whatever you wish out of it. uh Whiskey straight ale, never heard of poaching. I will believe it. As a Northern Ireland man, most of us never hear of it. Getting back to what uh, Graham had said a minute ago about, you see, this is the thing. They tend to flavour the poaching then. So what to do? And he's maybe not joking about putting Fox's Glacier mints in it, because I certainly have had uh, poaching that has had brandy balls. Brandy balls was always a great one for putting flavour into it, but just changing the flavour enough to, and it's a weird thing. If you're not aware of what brandy balls are, they're a hard boiled sweet that they're supposed to taste like brandy, I suppose. But it's weird. I haven't had poaching in years. I had an awful, awful experience with poaching as a man in my early 20s, which I'll not go into. It wasn't very pleasant. And but it's one of those things. It's weird that, because maybe that's just because I'm older, that I don't see. I'm not hanging about with that group anymore that would be into that sort of thing. That because it it would have been about, it was there. You could have bought a bottle. People would have bought a bottle of it, and that was maybe where could you get a bottle of poaching? And it would have showed up. Somebody would have had a bottle, and it just that would maybe been the way to. It was generally the way to finish a night or get a party going. It was the same as, like, and I'm sure there are those out there with no slow gin. Uh, Slow gin is basically, but when I'm talking about slow gin, this is homemade slow gin. And yet again, you're looking at boys making vodka and then infusing it with slow berries. So, but it was delicious, really. Oh, I love slow gin. Beautiful, beautiful flavor. But ugh, that's incredibly minty. I would say that actually, that is actually what Graham suggested there is what has happened. That it is it has been infused with something minty at a time. And that was the other thing that I wanted to say. Part of the reason that you don't that poaching is pretty much, you don't see so much. I had friends who have a house. I'm not going to say where it was, and they had a still. Now this is going back 30 years, because yes, I'm that old. And they had a still and at the side of the house, and they were making poaching. But because it's pretty much, poaching's pretty much been legalized, hasn't it? That in that you can get new make spirit now. You can legalize new make. You could sell new make spirit, whereas before you couldn't. It was just, that was a big no no. You do not sell uh, unaged spirit. It's illegal. It's not. So mm, that was interesting. That was interesting. It's not one I would recommend. Well, uh, that's, yeah, yep. I could imagine so. And yeah, it's Luna. It slows. They make for an incredibly, and yet again, I say about slow gin being very very nice and all that. There, isn't it funny how you reminisce about a spirit or a drink or because you know oh, Richard, you're the one that left. God bless you, son. But I I think there's an awful lot of it as reminiscing too, and yet again, it takes you back to the whiskey world, doesn't it? Where you go, well, look, do you remember when? Wasn't that whiskey lovely? Wasn't that thing? And I think if you can come off an experience with a nice drink or something that you like, and not spend the next day really hungover, really, really suffering, really just going, oh man, why really, I shouldn't have drank that. And as I said earlier on, this was the experience I had with poaching, and it was just I drank too much of it, so it was that was my fault. It wasn't anybody else's. This is why people when people blame, and I'm not going to get uh, sanctimonious here and get on my horse and say that here, if you drink too much, then it's your own fault. But just they can create. I think certain things can create great memories, can carry you through life, because if you can hang your coat on that and say, "Yep, that was a good night." Well, then you didn't do anybody any harm. Everybody had good fun. It was just, y- things like that. That's what I mean. Then it's a memory of something like that. Even if that was the word, you did something in that night, you drank something in that night that just ruined it for you. This is why I was just talking about slow gin. I had a great memory of slow gin at a party in my sister's house years ago, and how nice it was at the time. And don't know whether I've ever had it again since, but I'm telling you now that slow gin's lovely. So this is me just picking a small fact out of my life. You know what I'm saying? I've went back to this supernova. No, I haven't. I've bloody confused myself now. What the hell? Hold on. Hold the bus. No, that's the supernova. So I may actually be. No, I'll tell you where I've gone. I've just dipped in McKinimby again. Anyway, oh, Canenvy. Oh, Donner Pass whiskey. Tim has just dipped in. Tim, you're probably you're probably just about to miss what's going on here, because it's I'll probably be heading very, very soon. Eric, we was just saying tequila. Oh man, how many of us have had bad experiences with tequila? Yet again. Now, yet again, that being said, a niece's wedding. It depends on, to me, how bad it gets. How bad, because a niece of mine got married a few years back. Didn't turn out well for her. That she's divorced again. But uh, at the wedding party, myself and my brother had, and it's weird. It's this thing, isn't it? That when you don't understand alcohol, because there's good tasting tequila, we forget about taste, and we look at how many of these can I get banged into me? How if it gets me drunk incredibly quickly, I'll have more fun. And I'm starting to sound like I'm getting sanctimonious again. My mother just told me off uh, a couple of days ago about you drink too much, or you do, and it's basically because all I have to do is mention the whiskey novice. You drink too much. My mother never drank a day, never drank, never alcohol never passed her lips. She's 83, 84 now. She never smoked, never, so it's just it's just one of those things that I was fit to say to her, look, since I started drinking whiskey, tonight's not a good example, unfortunately, but since I started drinking whiskey, I drink less than I ever drank because I'm enjoying whiskey. I'm enjoying sitting with friends. I'm enjoying talking to people that I don't necessarily know, I've never met, but that matters not. Just to be able to join in with folk like-minded people. Yeah. Sorry, I didn't doze off there. I wasn't getting sentimental. It just this was what tonight was about. Was drinks with friends, and it's certainly worked for me. I don't know about you guys, but I've been very relaxed. Found this incredibly enjoyable. I had to be very careful there because something to say my phone picked up on and was just about to search it. And it's funny because there's a few he seems to have picked up on the, the tequila thing and even the mezcal and stuff like that. And Al, yes, you're 100% right. And as I say, it's weird because I think, and I could be wrong, I think there's enough of us in here agree that the longer you're in a company like this, company like ours, we understand that it's just it's appreciating the company. It's appreciating what you're drinking. Sorry, Menno's clocking out. Mate, thank you for joining in. Very much appreciate the fact you were here. Uh, yeah, it's something that if you look after yourself, don't. Yes, doc. And to be honest, the the telling off came about just as I say. I don't even mention it, but the telling off. My father, uh, who my mother loved till his dying day, and they remained a very happily married couple. Liked the bar, liked his smoked till his dying day, drank till his dying day, liked a pint and a dram, and it's weird because I, you know, I idolized him, but not to the point of I want to be you. I wouldn't want to. I didn't want to be sitting in the pub drinking when my wife could probably have done with me at home. So yet again, don't want to get sanctimonious, don't want to get on my horse with this. So it was just, I'm quite happy to this. I think this community funnels people like us, like-minded people who understand that there's been a bit of effort, a bit of work put into to making a drink that we can enjoy. We can find different things and we can look at and say and be uh single-minded about be so it's I just think that it's a great place that we have here. There's been and it's made by you good folk. Listen, I'm going to wrap it up because I'm starting to blather a bit, and there's a Northern Irish word for you, to blather. And if I go on too long, I'll just I mean, Alan, the whiskey friend, just gets drunk. Er, or sort of gets happier, should I say? And he does, and can really get into this. But I just tend to start and blether once again. So listen, thank you so much. As I said at the start, the these Monday nights are going to unfortunately come back to once a month rather than once a fortnight. But and a few people have actually said to me that it's maybe a better thing because at least you'll enjoy it whenever it comes around, and I hope you come back. I really do, because I do enjoy these live chats. I really, really do, and I genuinely appreciate you being here. So, listen, please look after yourselves. There's people out in the world. Eric, stay safe where you're at, mate. Uh, all you people where you're at, because of what's going on in this world at the minute, just look after yourselves, look after each other, and they'll be back. I'll be back in 3 weeks' time. The reviews will keep going every Wednesday. That'll not stop. So I was nearly going to cheers you out with a glass of water there. Heaven forfend. That's more like it. Here's to your good health, folks. Stay safe. Keep well. Cheers.